let's begin.
All right. Well, let's open with one of the more persistent assertions about this administration's sense of fiscal responsibility.
All right.
The question of office expenses.
Yes.
Who did the renovations in the office, and what was the total cost to the taxpayer?
Public Works Department did the work for the office. They were expecting to do the work for the office. It actually, a funny story, after he won the election during the transition, he came in and he said, where's the office? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, where do you want it? He said, there's no office? They said, no, we just figured whoever would come in would tell us where the office was. So obviously we chose the personnel office and moved them across the street to the finance board, where the finance department is. Mm-hmm. Public Works did it. They were expected to do it. They worked very quickly. They did a great job, obviously. And it was budgeted for $20,000, and it came in under $15,000. So saved about $5,000. I mean, as you can see around the office, not the most extravagant office in the world. We bought a lot of stuff off Craigslist, brought it in ourselves.
At your own personal cost?
Yeah, our own personal cost. Okay. Obviously there were things like desks, chairs, bookshelves that they bought, but the fridge, microwave, that was personal expense that we paid for to kind of keep the cost lower, and it came in total under 15. So I know there's been a lot of assertion that it was this grand office suite that cost $700,000, and I think pretty much once you open the door, you see, unless there's gold bars hidden in our desks, which there isn't, it would be hard to reach that $700,000 claim or anything higher than really the 14.6, 14.8 that we actually documented, provided the council over and over again.
All right. When the vote to change the city charter passed, were there any funds allocated for infrastructure costs?
Do you mean for the office?
Yeah.
Yes, $20,000.
It was $20,000.
Yeah, $20,000 was budgeted. The salaries as well. That's been a big complaint about this extravagant staff. Salaries were also budgeted by the previous council. Okay. Which we actually came in $5,000 under the total salaries budgeted.
So they did properly anticipate the costs of transition.
Which is why, I know a lot of claims have been made about, well, why didn't he just go sit in the city manager's office? That's what most city mayors do. They go sit in the city manager's office with a computer and a phone. That's not at all true. I mean, in Ledyard, which is not a city, it's a town, has no police force, obviously not the problem we have. They do have an office with a phone and a computer and an assistant, but they're not a city. They're a much smaller town. Most cities, I just did the research on this, have 3 staff members. Minimal. The majority of them have 3. Hartford has 12. New Haven has 11. All right. Danbury 6. So, this was all expected.
So the additional staff that were brought in, we're talking which individuals are they and what are their titles and responsibilities?
By charter. In the charter, it says the mayor has authority for a chief administrative officer, that's Jane Glover, personal secretary, which is me, he just renamed me executive assistant, and equivalent positions, which is Tammy. Okay. And all of us were expected, all of us have already been approved by council, and our salaries were set at certain rates. My salary was reduced $10,800. Jane's salary was reduced $20,000. By city charter, the mayor's salary cannot be raised or lowered during his term. Okay. And Tammy's salary was raised $25,000, but still came in $5,000 under total salaries.
All right. And what are the numbers we're talking there as far as?
Mine is 55. Tammy is 70. Jane is 80. And the mayor is 86.
All right. And each of these are new to City Hall's payroll?
They're new, but by charter they were created. So, obviously, with the change in government, there was going to be an increase in staff. The council actually did not have staff designated. They would have had no one. And in a strong mayor form of government, they can really bulldoze the council. They don't have their own staff person. So the mayor talked with Council President Passero, said that they should retain Gail. She has an immense institutional knowledge of council affairs. So she was hired. She's actually a new position as well, which is usually looked over because her position actually was not existent and was created by ordinance this year.
Understood. Any previously existing positions eliminated to compensate for the new ones created?
Just city manager.
Just city manager?
Just city manager.
And what was the payroll on that? Do you know off the top of your
City
head?
manager was it was over 120. I think it might have been around the 145 mark. Yeah, city manager made an extreme amount of money. She also had a $6,000 car stipend, which the mayor forfeited.
Okay.
Took a used city car, returned the money, which was $6,000 for the car allowance. Saving the city another $6,000. Got a free car that we already had. It was an unused old detective's vehicle that we had in our.
So the rumor I heard about the fire chief's vehicle being commandeered by the mayor, that's not true?
It's actually the license plate.
The license
And
plate.
by state law, the NL1 or WFD1, whatever it is, the one, needs to be on the chief executive's car. And it can only be on a city car, which is why he used the city, an unused city vehicle that we already had in our stock. And Chief Samuel had actually asked every city manager if they want it on their car, and they said, no, you keep it. No, you keep it. It actually went back to, I think it was Richard Brown, city manager a while ago.
I'm familiar with the name.
Yeah, and when the chief asked him, well, this is supposed to be in your car by state law, he said, I don't want it on my car because then people will know where I am when I'm out to eat. And you're the one that picks me up for fire, so you just keep it on your car. And then the city manager refused it. He offered it to the mayor. The mayor said, yes, state law, put it on.
All right. Could you explain the controversy regarding the Office of Development and Planning Director and the administration's position in that controversy?
Of course. ODP was defunded. They cut the director. During the transition, the mayor asked, because I served as the executive assistant during the transition, Alan served as the transition chairman, obviously. He asked what positions he could fill. City manager and personnel coordinator told him ODP director. He went out, filled it, put it up at an ODP salary, and put it up to normal director salary, and filled the position. And it wasn't until about a month after she started working, and a half after she started working, where the council kind of wanted to defund or didn't think she should have been hired. But I mean, the mayor pretty much went on the information he had at the time, which he got from the personnel coordinator and the city manager during the transition.
That would be Denise Rose and Bernadette Welch. Okay.
Yes. And
they said that this position needed to be filled, and there was a budget for it already?
What positions he could fill.
He could fill.
This position, yes.
Okay.
So these were all vacant positions because when he took office, all department heads were technically vacant, which is why Tim Hanser was a new public works director. We kept some of the old ones. Tommy Major, Chief Ackley, Chief Samuel, Bernadette Welch, personnel coordinator, kept her because they were all technically vacant, which is why on the first day in office, we all had to be re-sworn in.
Understood.
Yeah.
In regards to the Al Mayo and the New London Fire Department in general, who or what entity is in charge of collecting and reviewing the applications for firefighters?
For firefighters, it goes to the personnel board, which reviews applicants, decides on the kind of merits that they're going to test on. They used a certified list hiring, which tends to produce less minorities in the applicants because they already have to have different certifications. The mayor is moving towards open hiring, and which tends to produce more minority applicants, and it makes it easier to diversify the fire department, which, I mean, as everyone knows, is in need of diversification. And he appointed 3 new people that were committed to diversity in all city government.
And those 3 new people are?
James Dixon, Lauren Natush, and Joan Sullivan Cooper. Joan ran as the Green candidate for council.
So now there's a personnel board?
Yes, there's a personnel board.
Previously there was only one person doing that?
There's always been a personnel board.
It's always been a board?
Yes, it's always been a board. Mayor had a chance to appoint some new people. He made sure that they were people that were committed to diversity and just not just the fire department, but all layers of city government. We actually, since he's taken office in the short 4 or 5 months, there's actually been more minorities in office in city government than ever before. Jane Glover, Raquel Graham, the records tech, was the first ever Latina in City Hall. Dawn Courier, minority woman. Assistant City Clerk Nate Karen, City Clerk minority Tommy Major. Chief Ackley, one of under 50 chiefs in the United States. That's a female. So I mean, it gets a little frustrating when there's claims of, he's a racist or he's not committed to diversity, when in just 5 months he's staffed and put people in positions where diversity will come. It just happens to be the Alameda situation. Was an unfortunate one. I mean, the mayor didn't hire him. He went off the information he had and decided to terminate him. And as you said, he's not going to lower his standard of excellence. I mean, I think hiring minorities just for the sake of hiring minorities is not the right way to go through diversity in city government.
If we could just revisit the application review process, the personnel board. You mentioned the difference between the previous method as a closed process.
It's certified.
Certified.
Yes,
So,
check on that today.
what was the requirement? Certified? What does that mean? What's that term?
Certain certifications already before they go to the academy.
Okay.
Which is, it just tends to produce people from more, I guess, suburban areas.
Certifications meaning like experience on volunteer firefighting companies or
EMT certifications, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And now the open hiring process, anyone can apply. Okay.
You'll be better trained and you'll get the certifications that you would have needed to apply for.
All right. So that would all come included once an applicant's been accepted.
Yeah, once they go through the fire department or the fire academy, be trained the same way they would anyone else, and still come out. We would just tend to have more minority applicants.
All right. And the city would be funding all that training.
Yes. Okay. They pay for all the training anyway.
All right. The proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year includes a profound tax increase, while services are slated to decrease. Some services are slated to decrease. Can you give a brief synopsis of the budget, its cuts and increases?
This is actually the first question we've ever gotten on the budget since it's been proposed.
Yeah?
People have just been loving tax increases. We just pretty much everywhere we go, people are cheering. They want higher taxes.
You don't say.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
The budget was basically an honest proposal from the mayor on what it would take to continue existing services and what it would cost. The increase is actually just a correction of revenue estimates that were off in the last budget cycle. We're going to have I believe it's about now a $3 million shortfall from revenue estimates and a 1.4 around that $1 million shortfall from a previous budget. I think it's the 2010-2011 budget that we have a shortfall from. And this is just correcting those shortfalls. That's the increase.
So the $3 million includes both shortfalls?
The $3 million is the revenue shortfalls from 2011-2012. And the other 1.3 is the shortfalls is the deficit, from 2010 to 2011. That budget.
Understood. Have there been budget discussions with the city councils after the proposed budget was handed out at the same time the State of the City address was given?
That was the official budget address.
Okay.
The council has been holding finance committee meetings with all departments of city government, making cuts, trying to find ways to lower the tax increase. So far, they're making progress on getting it lower than the proposed. But it's just a process, and the mayor outlined different ways to make substantial cuts. In his State of the City address, fire obviously is a department. Public Works is a department that has typically been gutted in the past. 10 years ago, they had about 92 members.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have 55 with an average age of 45 years old, which is, I mean, it's not an old age, but for an average age, that's fairly high for a department of the amount of work they do.
All right. Do you anticipate any sort of standoff between vetoes and overrides? Or has there been a lot of communication between the city council and the administration?
The president of the council and the mayor have been talking. I think it's probably too early to tell if there's going to be vetoes or standoffs or anything like that. Right now, we're just kind of watching and seeing how the council cuts and what they'll do. And, you know, and when it passes them, it goes to the finance board, we can make additional cuts, back to the council, and then it'll go to the mayor's desk where he'll have the opportunity to veto specific line items.
One of the things that stood out to me in the State of the City address was the mentioning of closing one of the fire stations.
Yes, the Bank Street Fire Station. It was actually studied and found that it should have been closed 2 years ago when the study was done. It said it has structural problems and is inadequate to hold the operations that it currently does hold in that fire station.
How would the city compensate for that, safety-wise?
Well, for a 6.4 square mile city, 3 fire stations is a lot. It's not necessarily a public safety. I mean, I know we just had a fire on Blinman Street, which was just right next to the Bank Street, and I know they'll put it on 15 minutes with close. And again, our fire department is probably the best one I've ever seen in the 4 cities I've lived in. But in a 6.4 square mile city, they would just probably be split between the north side station on Broad and the south side station, I think, is on Lower Boulevard. Okay. And, I mean, in reality, it's not really a compromise of public safety. That's always the argument. Whenever you try to touch fires, that's compromising public safety. But the building's not adequate. It has structural problems. And we've estimated there's no public safety compromise.
Has that's the administration's estimate? Or
yes, as well as the study from 2 years ago that said it should be closed.
Who did that study?
Keith Chapman.
Keith Chapman.
He has several different titles. I think he was under special assistant to the city manager, while also being director of public works and director of ODP. He had a whole muddle of titles.
I've heard his name quite a bit around town. In regards to the waterfront, there was a profound mistake made in the design and planning stages of the new floating pier array that is now costing the city a substantial amount of money to retrofit or repair.
It could cost up in the millions.
Up in the millions. Who or what entity is responsible for the oversight of that project?
Marty Berliner is the consultant that has been handling that project. He's been working, I believe the architecture firm is Malone and McBroom. And he's been kind of overseeing that and trying to finish up the project that was before. I mean, that project has been for a while. It was pre-mayoral election.
Oh yeah. No, this dates back. I'm just curious to know, being someone who's familiar with the waterfront.
Yeah.
What do you know if there's any qualifications that were they vetted this group? Is it a group or is it just Marty Berliner himself?
Marty Berliner is the consultant. I'm not sure. I mean, again, that was before we took office. So we just got word, I think it was about a month ago, a few weeks ago, that there were substantial problems. Yeah. That would need to be fixed. But I don't know the answer to the waterfront project. That'd be a question for Marty Berliner.
All right. So Marty Berliner is contracted?
Yes, he's contracted.
So he's not a city employee anymore?
He's a former city manager.
Former city manager.
No, he's just been a consultant.
All right. What is his salary, and who does he answer to?
I believe it's $15,000. $15,000 for his consulting fees.
Okay.
Who do you answer to? Generally, everyone answers to the mayor. Okay. Now, that would probably be the person you would answer to. Right. But he's obviously been working in coordination with the Public Works Department to answer.
And does Marty Berliner have any particular maritime qualifications that you know of?
Honestly, we didn't appoint him to be the consultant. I've had only 1 or 2 conversations with Marty.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he has any maritime qualifications. I think he was hired, so I hope he did.
But his hiring predated the mayor?
Predated the mayor, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that something that might come under review, given the scale of the mistake?
I wouldn't be able to speak definitively. It would come under review. I mean, obviously mistakes are reviewed and costs to the city are very thoroughly reviewed. But that would be something that's moving forward. We'd have to look at.
And the cost overruns you said are close to $1 million or over $1 million?
I saw a number, if it's the same thing, it's been closer to millions.
That's the overrun. All right, so we just get that cleanly on tape. Yes. So the figure, the $1 million, possibly in excess of $1 million.
It is a substantial amount of money. Not positive on the exact number. I'd have to look into that.
But that figure is the retrofit fix that's occurring. That's not the budgeted amount for the whole refit.
It's to fix the problem.
Okay.
That occurred.
All right. I know there have been allegations of collusion between the mayor and Chief Ackley during the campaign. Personally, I don't think that's that big of a story in a town like this.
True.
Yes. Well, I don't. Yeah. Whatever is whatever in regards to that. To me, what happened was a new team took the field and ran the table. As far as there's a new team in place here.
Yeah, new administration.
Yes. The real concern for me is now that candidate Finizio has become Mayor Finizio, what sort of tone and temperament is being set within the city government? How would you characterize the attitude of this administration towards the various political parties? Well, first off, wait, before we get into that,
all right.
Let me just say, I don't want to dismiss the question of collusions.
Right.
Then
we can go on to the next.
Right, yeah.
The question
Was there any collusion that you know of?
There was no collusion, period.
Right.
That I know of. And it has been shown that there was no collusion. The mayor signed a sworn affidavit that he released today, as well as released any emails between him and the chief, saying that there was no collusion. They only met, I believe it was 3 occasions. One was when he became a candidate to talk about the police department. One was kind of by accident. They bumped into each other on the side of the road. Outside City Hall on the night of her executive session about whether she was going to stay or go was up, and he just told her to kind of hang in there. And the third one before he became mayor was on primary night. When he won, she came down to the headquarters of Brass Rail, gave him a hug, got in the car, drove off.
Yeah.
Next time he saw her was the night of the election after he won. Released the emails where it's all documented on the day. Getting to know each other, see what he's done. Invited her to dinner. She said no, it would not be appropriate. There's no collusion there. I mean, that was kind of it was a claim that was made to kind of like a I gotcha claim. And the sworn affidavit, the released emails show that there's a false claim.
All right. All right, so back to the question I was leading up to. How would you characterize the attitude of the administration towards all the various political parties and power factions in New London? And how is this administration... Well, I guess, I'll have a follow-up to that. But
I would say open. Obviously listen to the concerns of everyone that's involved in the city, all the players. But at the same time, before the mayor, under city manager, people kind of ran tiny little fiefdoms, and every fiefdom they ran, they knew everyone else that ran theirs, but no one would touch the other one. It was kind of about 10, 11 people, running the city in their own little corners and negotiating for the city on their behalf. Obviously, with the new form of government, some of it's been difficult for different organizations and different little fiefdoms to understand that now the mayor speaks for the city.
Yeah.
There's now one voice. This is why there was a charter change. This is what this town wanted. They didn't want as the mayor said, 8 people rowing in 8 different directions.
Yeah.
So I think it's been open, but it's been definitely a process for people to get used to how things are now in the city, and then sometimes there's disagreements, and sometimes there's not. But in any form of government, when there's a massive change, the way the city underwent, 90 years without a mayor.
Yeah.
And then to go to a mayor all of a sudden, especially one that, was new to the city, only lived for 2 years, did not have any debts to the kind of old guard, old way of doing things. There were challenges, but I think it's been open, and discussions have been going on to try to, make it the most easy transition.
Understand. Has the administration? Well, actually, you know what? We can just call that good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
you're not going to negotiate on behalf of the city if you're not the mayor anymore.
Say again.
There's also been an attitude you're not going to negotiate on behalf of the city if you're not the mayor anymore.
Well, thank you, Zach.
No problem, man.
Yeah. Till next time.
Till next time.